Hello and welcome to SGPN's The Daily Dog. I'm your host, Britton Hess, and I'm here to give you my 3 favorite Underdog fantasy plays of the day. If you're new to Underdog Fantasy, sign up with promo code DAILYDOG, that's DAILYDOG, at UnderdogFantasy.com for an up to $250 deposit match bonus. You can also do that on the Underdog Fantasy app. So let's get right into the show. Yesterday was another losing day. We didn't get our plays to come home. But I don't know, some of it was good there, some of it was bad. I was going against Jameson Taillon, and I was hoping that the Rays would get things together, and they did not get 5 hits against him. So I thought they were going to keep him in for 7th inning, and we had a shot, but they did not. That one lost. Marcus Semien over 1.5 total bases. I expected him to be trying to swing for the fences every at-bat. He did, but he had all of those balls go into gloves. He had 2 balls with an exit velocity of over 100 miles per hour, but it was not meant to be. He did not get his home run or his double or a single hit in this game before getting pulled, as the Dodgers crushed the Rangers in this one. And then the last one was J.P. Sears under 5.5 hits against. He was dominating for 4.2 innings, 4.1 innings, and then things started to go sour, and the A's could not get to the bullpen quick enough, so he ended up going from 2 hits allowed in over 4 innings to 7 hits by the time the 5th inning had ended. So that did not go well. It's the tough struggle of trying to find value on some of these off-the-beaten-path guys, because a team like the A's just is not going to have a bunch of arms on standby that they're willing to turn to in a close competitive game. I mean, a guy in their pen is not going to be better than J.P. Sears, at least the way he's been playing for most of the season. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get into today's plays. And there's a lot I like, and I'm really targeting one specific game to start things off. I'm going to my guy, Starling Marte, to have higher than half of a total base against the Marlins and starting pitcher Braxton Garrett. Starling Marte has been on a heater lately. He's got, He's got hits in 7 of his last 8 games, multiple hits in 6 of those last 8 games. And in the game where he had a single hit in that stretch was a triple. So he's gone over 1.5 total bases in 7 of his last 8 games. If we go back to his last 12 games, he's actually started, because occasionally he'll come in off the bench as a pinch hitter, pinch runner. But in his last 12 starts, he's got at least 1 hit. So I really love the heat streak he's on right now. I couldn't go against him. I couldn't get this in my slip fast enough. So it's Starling Marte higher than 0.75 total, or 0.5 total bases at a 0.75x multiplier against the Marlins. And we'll look at Braxton Garrett a little bit here, the pitcher that he's facing. Garrett has only started 5 games on the year. In those 5 games, he's given up 5, 7, 4, 6, and 6 hits. It's a classic righty versus lefty matchup, and Marte is hitting .321 versus lefties. I think over half a total bases is a steal, as I said, but if you have a chance to get involved in other markets, such as over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs, or even 1.5 total bases, I think those are worth a look. The HRR is really good because there's a lot of guys on this Mets team who have had great success against Braxton Garrett. So Marte is obviously going to be batting, or potentially going to be batting with ducks on the pond, or he's going to have other guys on the team that can drive him home, depending on what the batting order ends up looking like. So on that note, I'm going to be fading Braxton Garrett in the 1st inning on the 2nd pick on this slip. Braxton Garrett higher than 0.5 hits allowed in the 1st inning. He's got 5 starts this year. Versus the Rays, he allowed a walk, 3 hits, a K, and 3. He had 1 K and 3 runs allowed in that 1st inning. Versus the Padres, there was a hit by pitch but no runs. Versus Arizona, there was a hit. Versus the Mets, hey, that sounds familiar. He led off with a hit by pitch on Lindor, then single hit by pitch, and allowed 2 earned runs in that 1st inning. Versus the Phillies, allowed a double, a walk, a homer, a single, 3 earned runs in the 1st inning. So in 4 of his 5 starts on the season, he's allowed at least 1 hit in the 1st inning. And, just throwing this out there, he's allowed a run in 3 of those 5 starts in the 1st inning. If we look at how he has played against the Mets in recent history, we also see more of the same. We saw he played them earlier this year, allowed 3 singles in that 1st inning and 2 hit by pitches. But last year, on September 27th, in the 1st inning, he allowed a walk, a home run, so 2 earned runs there. On September 19th, he allowed a double in the first inning, no earned runs, and then on April 9th of 2023, he allowed a double in the first inning. So in his last 4 starts versus the Mets, he's allowed at least 1 hit. And as I said, his form on the year is also indicating that he will be giving up a hit in the first inning. The guys in the top of the Mets lineup, like I said, they have some advantageous matchups versus Braxton Garrett. Frankie Lindor is 5 of 16 with a double and 3 home runs. Pete Alonso, 7 of 18 with 2 home runs. Brandon Nimmo, not so great. Hopefully he's not batting third. He's only 1 for 13 with a walk. Maybe he can get lucky. I mean, I guess the law of averages says he should be due for another hit versus Garrett. But if Nimmo's not in this spot, great. If they get through that spot and we still have outs on the board, JD, he's only one of JD Martinez. He's a professional hitter. I love backing JD when I can. He's only 1 of 6 against Garrett. But that one was in the first inning of the last game he played against the Marlins. Then if we get to Starling, I mean, obviously, I love this spot. I love his history against Garrett, and I just love how hot he is at getting on base with hits. And then also maybe Vientos is in the top 3 or 4 in the order tomorrow. Who knows? I don't know if it would make total sense, but, if they do it, that would be great because Vientos is 2 of 6, 33%, 3.33 average against Braxton Garrett. So as I said, my first 2 plays are Starling Marte over half of a total base against the Marlins, and then I'm going to be taking Braxton Garrett to allow higher than half a hit in the very first inning. These first inning markets are a little bit white knuckle, but again, I dig into the entire Underdog board. Trust me, I would have loved nothing more than to give you an NBA play today, but these numbers have been out for a while. They're all so locked in. There's not a ton of value there. I would much rather be taking this Braxton Garrett higher than have a hit allowed in the first inning. My last play, I'm going back to my vice, which is small market pitchers on teams no one cares about. Jake Irvin of the Nationals to allow lower than 5.5 hits against the Tigers on Wednesday. Jake Irvin has 13 starts on the year. He's allowed higher than 5 hits twice. He's also pretty much just a straight up 6-inning pitcher. He's gone over 18 outs twice on the year, but he's not a guy you have to worry about him, them dragging out his service on the mound on a day. He's usually going to stick right around 5 to 6 innings. So that also helps on this under 5.5 hits allowed. He's also allowed fewer than 6 hits in 8 of his last starts consecutively. 7 of those last 8 starts were versus teams with better averages versus righties than the Tigers, who are number 23 in MLB. Okay, they're not the strongest righty hitting team around, and Jake Irvin is in great form. He's on the Nationals, so he's a little bit under the radar. I went back and did some box score logging with the Tigers just because, that just using a flat batting average versus righties in general isn't exactly the most exact science for figuring out how good they are against righty starting pitchers. So in their last 10 games versus righty starting pitchers, the Tigers have only had higher than 5 hits twice. And in their last 20 games versus right-handed starting pitchers, they've had higher than 5 hits 6 times. They've played a lot of good pitchers in this span, Paul Skeens and, guys like that, but they've also played a lot of bad pitchers, or at least league average pitchers. So that's why it's important to get a sample size that includes kind of both ends of the spectrum. If you just look at last 2 games, worth in a very specific market like a matchup versus starting pitcher, you're probably going to be missing some of it. So it is important to go deep into the data well and look at how these players, how these teams perform in the matchup overall, but also look at the specificity of recent and semi-recent past. So these 3 plays together: Starling Marte higher than half of a total base, aka he needs 1 hit against the Marlins. Braxton Garrett, starting pitcher of the Marlins, to allow higher than half of a hit in the first inning, and for Jake Irvin of the Nationals to allow lower than 5.5 hits against the Tigers. Put together, these return a 3.44x return on your money. If you put $10 down, that's $34.40 back. If you put $100 down, that's $344 back. So I love these plays. Let's get back to our winning ways here and lock it in. I'll get back to, so now that's officially out there, let's talk a little bit about my promo play strategy. I had another one out today. It was a max 10. That one lost. But we've built such a big bankroll on the promos that I'm not too worried about it. Those are usually limited to 10 to 30 bucks or something like that. So you got to try to maximize them where you can. And if you're not following me on Twitter or on X and you're not subscribed on YouTube, you should be, because that's where I release these plays. Overall, I'm 2-2 on those. So we've got $60, we've got $60 invested on, let me see, actually, let me do some math real quick. We got $50 invested on these, $60 invested on these promo plays, and we've brought back 228. So we're doing great on those. If you're not following me on Twitter and YouTube, I highly recommend it, because I put out those promo plays much closer to when the games start, and that is helpful because there's a lot more markets available on Underdog to attack. Like I said, I was talking about Starling Marte. If you have access to 1.5 hit runs RBIs, I think that you can get that as a even payout. That is a great spot to be in. So be sure to like, subscribe, rate, review, whatever, to the podcast wherever you're listening or watching, and let's make some money.